I'm not going to bother introducing our steering committee, which is here tonight, pretty much our audience. But I do want to take time. I want to thank Spotlight Theaters, for generously providing this space to no charge. As I said, we're a very informal group.
Introduce Chanel. She'd like to be introduced.
Okay, and Chanel Tarone from our steering committee would like to be introduced. So, Neil, could you want to stand up? Anyway, thank you to Spotlight for generously providing the space, and also to acknowledge the Hartford Public Access TV for filming this, so that we can make it available to people who were scared away by the chance of a snowstorm tonight. So anyway, tonight we're going to have, the topic is Connecticut Forum. Coming up next month, we're going to be at Teachers Village. Jennifer, did you want to add anything about that event?
No, it's been a long vacant property in downtown Hartford, right across from Bushnell Park, right next to the Hollander, and we're anxious to see what it looks like. It's housing for teachers, and glad to see a vacant property coming back to life. So I have flyers if anyone would like a copy.
And April, I don't think we've booked yet. May, we will be out at the the Bone Institute at Hartford Hospital. And given our demographic, maybe we can make some advance appointments for using the facility. So anyway, let's get on to the Connecticut Youth Forum for tonight. We're going to have Ruth Cohen, who's Director of Advancement and Communication, speaking. We'll also have Alex Taylor, who's the Program Manager for the Youth Forum. And we have Haley Turner, Program Associate. I have little brief bios on each, which I thought were somewhat interesting, so I'll go through that quickly. I was fascinated to learn that Ruth is also the published author of 19 gift and humor books on topics ranging from etiquette to beer to contemporary slang. So that's an interesting mix. She graduated from, she has a master's teaching English from Boston University and Bachelor of Arts in English from Hobart and William Smith College, but started her college experience as a plebe at West Point. So I'm sure there's a story there that maybe we can hear about. Alex volunteered with the Youth Forum and he ended up becoming its director, so be careful where you volunteer, I guess. And he also mentioned that he has hobbies of doing home improvement projects. So Alex, I like to promote people's hobbies, so anytime you run out, stop by. I think I have a couple projects you could jump in on. And then Haley graduated with minors in economics and peace and justice studies from St. Anselm College in Manchester, and she's done a stint with AmeriCorps before coming to the Connecticut Youth Forum. So with that, I think, Ruth, are you going first? So I'll turn it over to Ruth, and so we can hear all about the great work that the Youth Forum has been doing.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks, everyone, for coming out tonight and braving the elements to come. I'm the warm-up act. I'm here to tee up our incredible Youth Forum and give you a little context about the Connecticut Forum if you're not aware of who and what we are. The Connecticut Forum is a nonprofit organization that started here in Hartford 27 years ago in 1992. And the reason it began was that our founders were new to town, and they were struck by the divisions between the towns. They lived in the suburbs, and they come into Hartford, and just saw many divides. And the inspiration for the forum was to do something to bring together all the diverse elements that make up our wonderful Greater Hartford community and add to the cultural vitality here. Bring a point of pride to Hartford. And so what we do is we present big, high-profile events at the Bushnell Theater. These are conversations among interesting, high-profile experts, celebrities, thought leaders, and since 1992, we've had everyone here from Michelle Obama last year to Fareed Zakaria to Malcolm Gladwell, and a week from now we are presenting a forum on America and the world featuring the former Prime Minister of Australia and the former U.S. the former UN ambassador, Samantha Power. So many different conversations on every topic under the sun, and the purpose is to bring our community closer, to do something interesting, and inspire everyone in our community. The Youth Forum was born during the very first season of the Connecticut Forum, when several students in attendance came to the founders, and it was a forum on race relations. And these students expressed that they never had the opportunity to have an open conversation about race with their peers. And they asked if they could continue the conversation and if the Connecticut Forum could help them. And the response was, we'll help you, but you need to take the lead. And flash forward to today, the Youth Forum is a thriving program serving over 750 high school students from 35 different towns. And my colleagues, Alex and Haley, will tell you all about the programming today that has touched hundreds, if not thousands of lives over the last 2 decades. So with that, I will turn it over to Alex Taylor, the program manager of the Youth Forum, and Haley Turner.
Thanks for coming out and braving the snowstorm tonight. We really appreciate that. So as Ruth mentioned, I'm Alex Taylor, and this is
Haley Turner.
I'm the program manager of the Youth Forum, and
I'm the program associate for the Youth Forum.
The Youth Forum serves 750 students per year from over 35 different high schools all over Connecticut. So whether it's from East Granby up top, maybe Colchester, down bottom,
Memorial,
Parish Hill, all the way to
all
the
way
east,
out.
and then Farmington, Lewis Mills to the west. It's definitely bringing schools together that really wouldn't have the opportunity to come together if they didn't participate in sports. This just really gives students a chance to really see what other schools look like. Just yesterday, we went to visit Parish Hill in Chaplin, Connecticut, and they participate on a regular basis. And we really didn't understand when we're organizing buses for them, and we send the bus out, they're really traveling down stick roads to get and come visit Hartford and meet all of the other Youth Forum students. And speaking of Youth Forum students, we do actually have a few in attendance tonight as well. If you guys want to stand up just for a sec, and they're going to talk in a little bit after we get through a few slides, but I just wanted to introduce them now to you just so you can know that they're here with us in the audience. The Youth Forum has many different components to it. So the students that you just met right now, they are part of the green bubble called the Leadership Network. The Leadership Network is a core group of 25 to 30 students that come together 2 Fridays every month in the evening hours from 5 to 7:30 approximately. And they help us develop a lot, if not all, of the programming that the Youth Forum is, from topics to themes to t-shirt designs. We are a very student-driven program, so the Youth Forum is constantly promoting having as many students involved from all over that we possibly can.
The Leadership Network, we're also this year promoting or kind of starting a new initiative of a student-run newsletter for the Youth Forum. So we're actually writing articles and editing and sending that out via as an e-newsletter. So that's really exciting, a new kind of project for the Leadership Network this year.
We're also preparing for our what's in the purple bubble, the annual student conference. This year will mark the 25th annual Youth Forum Student Conference, which is an all-day event from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., typically happens in March every year, where students come together for small group conversations, large group conversations. They go into breakout rooms, they talk to students, they get paired up with students from all different schools that they normally don't get to meet with. And we have breakfast, lunch, dinner, a talent show, a dance. It's basically summer camp in one day for them. They even walk away with a t-shirt at the end. The day it's pretty amazing. There's up to 300 students in attendance for the conference, and this year it is at Loomis Chaffee School in Windsor. They were kind enough to let us use their brand new student center that they just did and created, and it's a really beautiful space.
And this year the theme is called The Ways of the World, becoming more aware of the world we live in. So students are really interested in taking a look at, what does my community look like, what does my world look like, and what do I think the world from my viewpoint looks like, and then kind of dissecting a little bit deeper into some topics in that overarching topic, like elitism, climate change, violence, criminal justice. So what do those things look like in my worldview? So it's going to be really exciting.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And one of the major things the Youth Forum is known for is in the yellow circle. They're called monthly meetings. Monthly meetings happen once a month at different locations all over Connecticut usually. But this year, because it's the 25th anniversary of the Youth Forum, we decided to celebrate Hartford. So this year, every single monthly meeting has been in a Hartford location. We started off at the Yard Goats Game Center at Dunkin' Donut Park, and then we went to Theater Works.
Yep. And then the LOB building, the Legislative Office building, they let us use their legislative space.
Yep.
Is that the correct term?
Legislative Office
yes.
building. Yeah.
And we just had a monthly meeting at the Hartford Public Library in their community room. And then in April, we're going to Travelers building right across the street. And then we'll end the year out with a year reflection and a senior send-off at the Old State House.
So it's a very Hartford-centric year for the Youth Forum. Very excited to have that. We'll also be working on a video piece coming up to promote the Leadership Network, and also the annual Youth Forum Student Conference will be filmed this year. So we're able to have a piece that will also show more what that's like and hear from actual students, because to hear an adult talk about it doesn't necessarily do it justice until you hear students talking about something and you feel that energy of what they're talking about. Every Youth Forum meeting, we follow the adults and the students that are in the room agree to follow the set of constants that we call the Youth Forum Culture of Validation. Every meeting will start with 11 students coming up and reading off one of these tenets for us. They're basically just keeping things in line and in order. Say what you mean, but don't say it mean. We accept each other for who we are. We don't put each other down. We connect and have fun. These are all things that are just very important to the Youth Forum, and you could probably speak to that too,
of the
right?
Room, on track.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. And back to our diagram here, we also have other components and initiatives of the Youth Forum that are funded by different organizations. For instance, the Violence in Our Lives project was funded by the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. Basically, it started in 2013, and we just wrapped that up working with them. We got to work with 5 schools individually and work on this really awesome program with them called the Violence in Our Lives project, where students created discussion cards that became available online so that other students would be able to continue conversations on violence and how to deal with violent situations and how to prevent violent situations, and also have a safe conversation about it.
And the other program is the Rise Above Network. So RISE stands for Respect, Intervene, Support, and Empower. This is kind of a campaign for schools to use to have conversations about violence in their schools, and to kind of have that conversation in the hopes of reducing violence in schools. So we have a pledge that we have. We work with 3 schools for this. Some of the schools were the same as the Violence in Our Lives project schools because they wanted to continue that work, and this is a little bit more visible to the schools. So we have pledge cards. We also have posters and banners that are hung in the 3 schools to kind of really get that campaign out for ending violence in schools. So the pledge is, I pledge to respect everyone that I meet, intervene when and where I can, support those in need of my help, and empower my school to end all forms of violence.
And this was funded by the Connecticut Health Foundation. They were kind enough to do that with us, and this project ends in June. And now, we'd like to introduce you once again to our Leadership Network students that are here today. They're going to tell you a little bit about their experience in the Youth Forum and what it's been like for them to participate, and I'll let them take it from here.
Okay, so again, introducing myself, my name is Astasia. I am a junior at Connecticut River Academy. I recently, not too long ago, maybe late last year, I joined the Leadership Network, and my experience so far has been great. I like the fact that my ideas are respected and taken into consideration for what we can project to other high schools and other students, and teaching other people about violence or anything else going on in our world. So being a part of the leadership, my ideas get to be respected, heard.
So my name is Malik, and I'm a senior at Connecticut River Academy. My experience with the Youth Forum in the Leadership Network, it's been like nothing less than amazing. When I started, I was really quiet. I was a really quiet individual. I didn't like to, talk to other people. But I've been in this program for 4 years, and this is my last year, unfortunately. I'm sad to leave them. I'm sad to see them go. But I think it's given me a nice platform and the abilities to, know what I want to say, shape it in a way that I want to say it, and then project it to whatever my audience is. So the time my audience is you. So I think that it's just been like an amazing experience. I would recommend it to anybody to try it out, because you get to meet people from all different walks of life. You get to talk about different topics. It just helps you to be a well-rounded individual. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Hi, I'm Nadia, and I go to Hall. I'm a junior in West Hartford, sorry. And basically, I started in September actually, and I would say it definitely helped improve some of my interpersonal skills as well as public speaking skills. But I would say the most valuable was that it helped me realize just how narrow-minded I kind of was before. So I come from a little bit of an affluent community, and I never imagined just how economically disparate Connecticut is. And so when I went there, I just saw that literally everyone was different, and they just had different experiences than I did. And so just hearing their perspectives on various issues and why they might think differently about gun control and such, when I assumed that everyone in Connecticut supported gun control, I could see the different perspectives, for example. But also they're a newsletter network, so I love to write, and just giving the opportunity for students to have a voice even in writing, I value that so much. And I guess that's pretty much it. I just love it so much so far.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
And this is just 3 of the other 30 that are part of the Leadership Network, and 3 of the overall general 700 plus students per year that participate in Youth Forum. We are constantly in search of funding, and we are constantly applying for grants. We are fully funded, great news, until the end of this June, in which case then we start all over again with trying to find grants and trying to find funding. So if you ever hear of an opportunity that you feel might fit the Connecticut Youth Forum in terms of funding or grants, please pass that information along to us. We'd be more than happy to take a look at that. We wanted to open up to questions to you now. Yes?
So, can you tell me, can I allow it now?
But we want it on the table.
Yeah, they come from the...
You wanted to be introduced. You don't like mine.
No, I just wanted to say that. Hi.
Hello.
I'm just curious to know about the profile of the youth that are participating in the program. And also, do you have data about how was the situation, the environment, the school before you came, and a year later after you left? I'm kind of curious about the No, about how percentage
How it changes? Absolutely,
varies
yes.
from the school.
We work
And
with-
the profile of the students, because I work with students, and
Yeah.
they're very needy. They need to pay to be in classroom on your conference, but they will not volunteer to do anything unless you pay them. So that's why I'm curious about.
Yes. So we do work with Barry Goff, who is our evaluation specialist. He has created many different versions of surveys to test the quality of the program and what the effects are of the program, and we can certainly share that data with you. It's all been very positive, even including the fact that the students that participate in the youth forum go up a grade or a half a grade up in their what they started with at the beginning of the year. And the second part of the question was, sorry, there was two. It was a two-parter.
Oh, the profile of the
The
students?
profile, yes.
You know, what kind of.
You're talking about racial demographics?
No. Are they a student that used to be absent for a long time and now he's just engaged, or?
No, so this program, students self-select into the program, so it's open. We have faculty contacts at each of the schools that we go to, and that is how we get in touch. They become our liaisons when we send them information, so they help collect students and bring students into the program. The youth forum is completely open to anyone that wants to participate, but it is self-selection into it. No one's ever being forced or saying they have to go and do that. Did that help? Did that answer the question for you?
They're engaged.
They're engaged. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Hi, how are you?
I think it's a great program, and I appreciate that you're being able to bring students from far and wide, but I'm particularly interested in which Hartford public schools, not magnet schools, but public schools are participating in this program.
So we have Hartford Public High School as a major participant. There's 3 academies within that school, which I think are eventually going to dissolve, but 2 academies are from within that school. We also work with Global Communications Academy, which is in the North End. We have had interactions in Buckley High School. What makes it a little difficult for us is when a faculty contact doesn't have the time to bring the connection of us into the school. So we'll throw that out there as well. If you know of anybody from Hartford schools that you would like to participate, please pass along any teacher contact information or guidance counselor information, because that's usually the way that we get into the schools even better.
A couple questions. You guys do a great job. It looks like a great idea. It's been very successful.
Thanks.
You guys are just 4 high schools?
35 high schools.
I don't mean 4, the number 4. Just high school students?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, just high school students.
Yes.
Okay. And then how do you market yourselves to other high schools?
So during the summer, Haley.
Every summer we go and do outreach with the schools that we currently have in our system. We really like that FaceTime with the principals and not our teacher contacts. We see our teacher contacts a lot, but it's during the monthly meetings, and we're like running around getting everything ready for the meeting, and they're like maybe saying hello, and that's kind of it. So we really spend time, and then certain towns that we want to have a better connection with. So like Nadia goes to Hall High School, so we went to Hall High School this summer and kind of said while we were there, hey, do you have contacts, or can you give us a contact for Conard High School, because we haven't, we want to like better our relationship with that high school. So we kind of we advertise in the playbill for the forum. So we recently had Job Corps join the program, but that was based on one of the women that works there, one of the admins seeing the ad in the playbill. So it's kind of varied. A lot of it's interpersonal kind of connections, and some of it's that we've gone out and asked other schools for contacts.
Club fairs as well. When
Yep.
they're having club fairs, schools will reach out to us and they'll say, can you come down and do a table for the youth forum? We'd like to get that more involved in our school.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll set up, our little shop down there with a bunch of the other clubs that are there, and students will come to us. But again, what makes a youth forum school successful is having a faculty contact that has the time and the interest to help be that liaison for us. Because without that, it's very hard to communicate just with schools. without having that connector piece.
Is the faculty typically the one that can authorize the students to join that group, or does that have to go through superintendent or principal?
Typically, it's a teacher.
Yeah.
Teacher or a guidance counselor.
And they'll do their permission slips are with their school to go on the bus, but we'll organize that transportation. They're just with them. They'll go on the field trips with them to the meetings.
I think that everyone in this room knows how hard it is to work the Hartford Public Schools. And with that being said, have you considered partnering with the Recreation Department? Have you considered going a little bit off track in your recruitment?
Well, currently we're funded by the State Department of Education, and in that grant process, we have to list 20 districts that can participate in the youth forum. Because monthly meetings have a limitation of 200 students per meeting, and the student conference has a limitation of 300 per student conference, the amount of students that we can take from each district will easily fill each of those programs that we're doing. So while we would love to keep branching out, our resources are somewhat limited in terms of how many we can actually take to a meeting. But let's say there was someone on the side from one of those programs that said, yes, we'd love to come and check out a meeting. We'd be more than open to have them come down and see it. You're welcome.
I'm interested in the diversity of the communities that are represented and how the youth interact and truly get to experience various locales and what it's like living in a neighborhood, perhaps a neighborhood that has violence on a regular basis, where there's poverty, and communities where there's virtually none of that, more rural, very little diversity in terms of ethnic background, ethnicity, religion, etc. So, do you have any programs where they can actually experience that, where they can get into the communities that are more challenged, for those kids who are not experiencing that today, and also the reverse, getting kids from challenged neighborhoods out to communities that are totally unlike their neighborhoods, where they have more, and experiencing such things as in the inner city, and some rural areas as well. I've seen that myself, but where the families often don't have a computer at all, where homework is done on your smartphone, or you have to go to the library or something. So I'm just curious, how do they get to experience any of that, or is it just related to them? It's verbally related, and that's all they get. So I'm just curious.
Do you guys want to take that?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll let them answer that question. I'll say though that the essence of the youth forum is to do that. So typically a year, while this year we are celebrating Hartford and going into different Hartford locations, when we bring together for monthly meetings 20 different schools coming from all over Connecticut, that can be the rural kids seeing what it's like to be in Hartford or live in Hartford. But then at the same time, when we go to rural schools, visit a school like Lewis Mills, and we're bringing Hartford students into that situation, it really is getting to see how everyone interacts with each other. But I'm going to let them also.
Just to bounce off what you said, Alex, I think that's kind of what the Violence Never Lives Project embodies. So to most of the ones that I've been to, a lot of students who grow up in towns that have a lot of violence, and there's a wide disparity between those students and students that don't have a lot of violence in those communities. So I think that if you attend one of those meetings, you probably actually get to see the disparity between those students, see how great it is that students can actually understand where each other is coming from, and then how they can come together to have a conversation about, hey, what can I do to lower the amount of violence that's happening in my community? What can I do in my local government to take a stand on what gets said and what affects me and people who go through the same struggles as I do. So yeah.
Well, I personally can say that during these monthly meetings and during the student conferences, that we have met people from schools in rural towns in Connecticut and also people in Hartford that go through poverty, and we come together and we basically share our stories of our experiences and where we live and how we connect and how we're different and how we can also help each other and better understand each other, because I personally think that there's a separation between kids in poverty and kids who have money basically in their families. And during these meetings, it's never negativity, it's polite conversations to talk about our differences and how we're also similar, and like I said before, how we help each other. So it's a lot of connecting, and we're meeting each other. It's very diverse, very diverse.
Curious if you do any post-evaluation, say 2 years later, if you've done anything like that.
So our evaluation really covers the beginning of the year and the end of the year. So we'll get the results from that. Currently, we are in the second year of doing our evaluation with Barry. So I think that's a great question, because I'm sure he'll probably take data from the beginning of the first year, and once we hit the end of this year, be able to do more of a 2-year scan at how everything worked for the Youth Forum. But great question, for sure.
I'm maybe a little confused. I thought when you first talked that you said you were looking to get into more schools, and then I feel like I maybe missed something, but that you had limitations. And
I think we're always open to schools. I'm not sure exactly the words that I may have used, but we're open to schools coming in and participating. But because of the state grant, we do have limitations in terms of capacity-wise, how many we can take on. And in terms of resources, Haley and I are the Connecticut Youth Forum, and Haley is also part-time. So it's constantly a struggle of finding that balance.
How many kids from Hartford are participating in the program?
We have, including, so when we look at the students who live in Hartford, it's also, so a lot of our data is self-reported. So if they don't say that they live in Hartford, we don't necessarily have that information. But we do have, including magnet schools, I think about 6 or 7 schools from Hartford.
Right. So I'd go with, because I don't have the data in front of me right now.
How many students?
Right.
Yeah.
So when we do that state grant, we do list how many come from each district. I don't have that piece of paper in front of me right now, but I would go to say probably 260. 260 of the 7 plus 100 are from Hartford.
And we do, we have schools, so say Bolton High School would host an open choice student, so that student potentially lives in Hartford. So it's like that kind of math is, we can definitely get that number to you. Yeah, it's I think it's larger than we think it is. I'm trying to do the math in my head, but.
I think you've already answered this, but I'm going to ask probably again a little bit, is it sounds like you have a lot of communications with other young people, and you get a pretty good sense of what their aspirations are, and you probably also get a pretty good sense of what might be standing in the way of their aspirations. And I'd be just interested in if you might be able to share, are there 1 or 2 things that you hear more often than other things that stand in the way of the aspirations that some of the young people might have?
Things that stand in the way of aspirations of what students say sometimes. One of the biggest ones is family. That's something I hear really often. The family doesn't always let their child go out and do certain things because they have a fear of I raised my child a certain way. So them being exposed to a certain mindset, I don't want that, because then it creates a war between the parent versus the child. So that's one major thing. I think the other thing is societal expectations. The Youth Forum is a place where societal expectations are diminished. So we don't have the room. There's no capacity for negative mindsets of people who don't think they're saying negatively of certain situations. You came here for a reason. You came here to learn to be open-minded. So those are kind of people that we want in our spaces, that we can have open, positive dialogue. Now, if there's someone who disagrees with something that we're saying, we invite them up and we ask them to share how they feel, and then we have a conversation around it, like, why do you feel this way? Is there something that happened to you that you don't mind sharing that, made you think a certain kind of way? So I think it's family and societal expectations are the two biggest factors.
I think another factor would be religion. I know a lot of different religions restrict people from doing certain things, being able to say certain things. A lot of religion could be private, but at the youth forum, you don't have to worry about that. Everything is open, and like Malik said, when two people disagree, they share what they have to say. Everybody else listens. Everybody's open-minded. Empathy for other people, and you listen and you have an open mind. Everybody just connects like that, and everybody has the ability to understand and see somebody else's perspective.
We go into a lot of different schools that we work with, and something that I feel like I hear a lot about is just that missing that piece in schools in particular, missing that piece of student-centered learning. So giving students a voice in their own education and the way that the school is run, so the administration, and kind of, I think a lot of students, I don't want to speak for all of them, but struggle with that kind of, that transparency in their administration, and I feel like they could be doing a lot more in their school to make change and to voice their opinion and kind of more control on their education if they were kind of clued in at an administrative level and there was more clarity in the decisions that the administration and the Board of Education and et cetera are making about their own education. So that's another.
Haley and I are adult allies to the students and also facilitators, so we are not the teacher role to them. So in a lot of cases, a school would call us up and say, we want to have a conversation about X in our school. The students don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to teachers and administration. Can you help? Mm-hmm. And that's where Youth Forum can also come into play as well.
All right, I think we're coming up on the close of the program. So
Yes.
I would like to make sure the students get the last word.
Yes.
So my question is similar to what Jim asked. I think this is a great program, but one thing that worries me is quite often it seems like my generation says the solution to all our problems is to educate the next generation and then they can fix the mess that we've created. So I'd like to have the students say, what's the one thing they would like to see from my generation that we can be doing now rather than waiting for them to solve our problems? And you jumped up fast.
Well, I think we can all agree that a situation that needs to be fixed from, the 1900s is racism, discrimination. I think, and it still plays an extreme big factor today in 2019, and I think that's one problem that really needs to be solved.
That's a great point. I think another, well, can you repeat your question again? I just want to make sure I answer it.
What's the one thing you want from my generation that we can be doing now to fix rather than passing the problem to you?
Oh, good question. I feel like in this interview today. I think there's a lot of stubbornness, if I'm honest. Like a lot of people from your generation dig their heels into certain problems. There's a lot of societal expectations, and I think that is one of the biggest things because there's a lack of there's a huge disparity between your generations in my generation. So I think that if there's could be a bridging the gap or a common understanding of what we experience is not what you experience. Our struggles today are more intense than some struggles that 60, 50 years ago. So I think the understanding of both different time periods that would kind of help a common understanding to make the world a better place. But yeah.
Okay, so to be totally honest, it's hard to tell adults or the past generation to just fix racism and all those things, but I would say definitely recognize that it's so intrinsic in everything, in the laws and everything. If you just look at how they're built, it's everywhere. And if we just recognize that it's there, you can actually start addressing it. Because I find that when I go tell people, I'm pretty sure these laws or rules are set up in a way that just disadvantages certain people, definitely. They just kind of deny it and say racism hasn't been a thing since the 60s, and I'm just like, okay. So, yeah, that's a big one.
Systematic oppression.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.